you so much for checking out the Sportsline Podcast on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, and I'm hoping you are familiar, we love speaking to and uncovering the amazing personal sports stories Southern Ontario, and in particular, the Golden Horseshoe has to offer. And folks, there are so many. Today, I can say with complete confidence, this former football player may be the most interesting individual I've ever met. How often does someone learn the sport of football in grade 10 and somehow end up playing for the LSU Tigers? After winning a U.S. national championship, there's a decade-long career in the CFL where Peter Dyakowski becomes a household name in Hamilton for his play on the field and actions throughout the community. But it doesn't stop there. How about becoming Canada's smartest man, Jeopardy, politics, even being the host of Pete Picks on CHCH? All right, enough already. Let's meet the man. Peter Dyakowski, this is great. I'm great and happy to see you here. I appreciate you coming in and telling your story.
Bubba, thanks for having me on.
Because I remember the very beginning of your Ticat days, and we'll kind of get into that. But before, I think a lot of people are probably wondering, what are you up to now?
Well, I've got the number one pressing concern, Louise and Helena, my two daughters.
Oh, okay.
7 and 5. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. All the football stuff aside, or I should say included. Mm-hmm. So we've got all the extracurriculars. They're doing dance. Skating just wrapped up. We had skating even to the warm month of June, but we had dialed it down to once a week. They're doing it at the Dave Andrechuk Arena, the mountain arena up there. They're loving that. So they keep me busy. They help me get my steps in. We go to the park all the time. So that is the big one. Yeah. Yeah.
And what else? You've got some personal, some, I guess, professional stuff going on as well.
Yeah, I got to pay the bills. So, I was lucky to stay put in one place for so long. Usually in football, you bounce around, you get traded, you get cut, all this stuff. So I got to stay here in Hamilton for 10 years. Thank you very much, everybody. And that let me put down some roots. I was here at a very fortunate time in the local economy. I had already been active investing in real estate even back into my university days. So I started building a bit of a company here. And now it's a pretty good size company, Hillcrest Properties. So I lead that. I have a fantastic team. I have a great property manager. I have great support staff, great maintenance technicians, cleaning staff, wonderful team. So we have a great culture there, a bunch of buildings around town, like little low-rise mixed use, some neat commercial tenants, some good restaurants. If you want pizza downtown, go to King's Pizza. Got to plug our guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Student residence complex by McMaster. So that all keeps you busy there. And then very focused with scholars. We're a national tutoring franchise system, and I'm very heavily involved in our franchisee development. So that's my department there.
That's youth, kids?
Yeah, so we're a tutoring system, and we teach kids kindergarten through grade 12 in all subjects, supplemental after-school programs, and it's a franchise system. So we thrive through the success of our franchisees in implementing our system. So I'm meeting people across the country, even in the U.S., and finding people who'd be a good fit. Not everyone's necessarily a good fit. Right. Maybe a burger franchise or something is a better business, or no business at all. Some people, entrepreneurialism isn't quite for everyone. So I do that. I work on a lot of our commercial real estate there because I have that background. So I've probably done 50 commercial leases across the country, and then that, of course, gets me involved in our build out. So lots of work there with scholars, and then I've still got maybe in the back of my mind some political aspirations. So you never know.
We'll get to that. Can I say this here? I've noticed this, and we've had a number of former players, a guy like a Rob Hitchcock or even like a Mike Morreale, guys that I still get to see on an often basis, and I've noticed this throughout time. And you can even visually see this on people I don't know. When guys, especially offensive linemen, finish playing the game, they either go one of two ways body-wise, because you look amazing. I'm going to tell you that right now. They either
shucks.
They either go up 50 pounds or down 50 pounds. You've clearly gone down more than 50 pounds. What happened? You look tremendous.
Well, you know what? It's the T-shirt slimming too. This is my birthday present, my top dad shirt. But by the way, great choice on the baby blue today.
Yes, we figured that out. Hey.
I live by the Wentworth Stairs, so I climb those things a couple days a week. I've got Amazing Fitness is my home gym now down on King Street, King and Sanford, downtown, and it is an amazing gym. The best thing about Amazing Fitness is everybody puts their weights back in the exact right place. So usually most gyms you go to, even if they put them back at night, and they don't all do that, within a couple hours in the morning, it's like a bomb went off. And you can't find, the right dumbbell to save your life, and the plates are all scattered. They're on the wrong, they've got the tree with the weights, and they're all in the wrong place. In Amazing Fitness, they're all in the right place, and it's got a pretty big membership. Everyone's on the same page. They have cameras, and I'm convinced that they're actually watching to see if anyone, like a new member, is putting them in the wrong spot, because I think I've seen them take some people aside for like a quiet word, but it's so nice. So doing my lifting there. And then my friend Bo, we've got an underground gym in his basement. We built this during COVID. So we built a secret illegal gym during COVID so we could keep lifting in his basement. So we got like a bench press, and we actually had to take it apart to fit it down the stairs. And there was one piece was too big. We had to cut it to get it in there. So we got the bench press, we've got the squat rack, we've even got the lat pull down machine. It's like a huge full lat pull down machine. So we have that.
So you're still doing the same kind of workout stuff you did in your playing days?
Well, as I get older, because I am 40 now, a few of the lifts they've come off the list due to the apparent damage that they do. So I don't do the cleans anymore. Dr. Ralph on Parkdale, the Ticats and Bulldogs team Cairo, he sees me about once every year and a half whenever I go a little bit too hard on something, and I crawl into his office and he straightens me out. And so I've learned to let sleeping dogs lie. And so I don't do the cleans. I can't do the heavy squats. So I'll do, like this morning, I did a couple hundred body weight squats. So like super high reps, I get everything like really burning, but I don't load up the weight on my back, because there's something that I've done to my lower back. I don't know what it is. I don't ask it. And if I don't give it a hard time, it doesn't give me a hard time. So I just let that be. But I'm keeping the bench up. I got the bench nice and heavy. I hit earlier this year 395. So that's good for a 40 or good for an old guy. The goal is to get back to at least 4 plates one day. So that's the aspiration. So doing a lot of that. Getting my steps. I've got my step tracker. So for a long time, I was always suspicious of my phone taking all of my information. And then I realized, well, Google hosts like 5 email addresses for me. They have every word I've ever written. They already know what I'm thinking.
All of us.
So why not let them, they already have my map and they know where I'm going. So why not let them count my steps while I'm doing it? Then I can at least get a little bit of information back. So I turn on my step counter, and that has been great for me because I'm trying to hit my 10K a day. And if you're
setting goals.
Yeah, I'm setting the goals. So now, I do want to slim down a bit more because I'm still at like close to 280. I was 279 this morning, and I played at like 330, 335. So I am down a shade over 50 pounds from the peak, but I'd like to get down a little further, but I want to keep the lifting up. So there's a lot of thought that goes into some of my nutrition. And then there's a complete lack of thought sometimes. And it's those times that, get me off track a little bit, but I am still an offensive lineman at heart. So that's why I got to keep the caloric output up, because the intake is never going to go down below a certain point.
Yeah, because I've never met an offensive lineman that's either dropped weight or gained weight that doesn't like a shawarma with garlic sauce.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, have you just kind of cut that stuff out? Or like you say, you've learned to limit in terms of your diet?
So the fried stuff... the kind of lower carb, semi-keto, not all the way, semi-paleo, not all the way. So I don't know, like, Paleolithic. So I'm not quite that ancient, but some of those principles. When I go for sushi, I still do all-you-can-eat sushi. Sapporo, fantastic spot. That's my favorite. We share a dumpster, so we're friends. They're great, but now I order less. I don't get the fried stuff, so just the fish and the rice. I figure that can't do that much harm. So trying these things, and I track every day. I weigh in at the same time in the morning, and I write my weight on my calendar so I can see, and I do the average every week, and I just look at the weekly and monthly averages. I just collect those because it'll swing because I'm a big guy, so I'm going to have an 8-pound swing because I had a big meal and a few salty things or a couple of beers, and I'm jumping right back up in terms of the weight. But if I track the average, I can see it in the long term. I'm making progress.
Right.
So I'm making progress, and that's important because, as much as I'm, hitting the stairs and all those things, the joints are aging. I still feel like I got a couple drives in me, maybe, but definitely not even a half of a game. So I want to get the weight trending downwards as I get older, but I still have to stay big enough because I've got the 2 daughters so that I can intimidate, boys in high school. So that's
just remember daddy's boss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I mean, an amazing career, an amazing thing, and congratulations on all the things you got going because, I mean, we have found that out that times for many people in sports, retirement can be difficult, the transition to real life and then, from playing life where everything's pretty regimented and you're told what to do and it becomes part of your life for 2 decades and all of a sudden well, now what do I do? So congratulations on doing that because I know that's personally probably a pretty big feat for you.
I do miss it though. I won't be, because some guys say, oh, I'm glad to be done or I didn't like camp. I'm not sour grapes at all. I loved it. I found out later in my career that I loved training camp, and I had this epiphany that I
can't believe you're saying you love training camp.
I loved camp, and I didn't realize it until 2012. So that year we had George Cortez, his one-and-done season with the Cats. I liked him a lot. We got along well, but I don't think he quite clicked or resonated with a lot of the guys. He's a historian, very smart guy. He had probably the toughest camp I've had as a pro. Not as hard as like the LSU camps and the Nick Saban, Les Miles camp, but the hardest camp I've ever had is we had 3 days. We had real, not true 3 days. The third one is not a full-on practice, but still we started I think with 8 2-a-days in a row, and normally you have 2 2-a-days and a 1-a-day, 2 2-a-days. 8 in a row until our star signing, I think it was Martel Mallet, blew his Achilles on the 8th day of 2-a-days, and then we dialed it back a little bit.
And he was a big free agent acquisition that year.
It was a huge. So that was this was an intense camp. And I realized, sometime in that first hellacious week, I still had a spring in my step and a smile on my face. I love this. And it was so freeing that I realized, I do love training camp, that my next, 13, 14, 15, 16, in the next 5 years, I just loved camp because I realized how much I loved it, and I realized how much I enjoyed the regimented nature. You show up and they give you a binder, and in the binder there's a calendar, and it tells you everything you're going to be doing every day for the rest of camp, the rest of the season. It's so liberating because all I have to focus on is being the best offensive lineman I can be. I don't even have to worry about when they've already figured out when the meeting is. They got the film ready for you. Everything is all set up. The cafeteria, I love the cafeteria at training camp. And so
the Mac Caf?
Oh yeah, it's great. They did a wonderful job. Thank you, McMaster Cafeteria.
I tell you. Let's start here. Okay, I got to go back. And as I said it off the top, you're a Vancouver guy, and you've never picked up a football, or at least snapped a football, or do much with a football until grade 10. Tell me that story.
I grew up playing soccer.
Because it sounded like you were horrible.
I was. Oh, yeah. Grade 10 was, I didn't know where, I was lost on the field. I played soccer. I grew up playing a lot of sports, soccer, tennis, skiing, sailing lessons, very gritty background. I went to Vancouver College, home of the Fighting Irish, the greatest team in high school football, a football school. And there was this bigger kid who wasn't on the football team. So they started giving me a hard time, encouraging me in a rough sort of way that I ought to play football. And my cousin at the time, David Hoy, he was slot back at the University of Alberta Golden Bears. He has a distinction. He scored the first ever touchdown at Foot Field. And he's now a fireman with the city of Edmonton. He was encouraging me to play football. And at the same time, I was getting taller and I wasn't really in shape, but I wanted to get stronger. And I thought, well, I'll go out for football. Everyone's telling me to, I'll try it out. So I tried it out. My first day in grade 10, I showed up. They had 2-a-days. This is serious high school, right? They had 2-a-days. I missed the morning because I got there late. Then they got me all the equipment between the practices, and I had time to kill, so I went and got a Slurpee. So then I show up at practice with a Slurpee, and they're in stretch lines. And I sat down, 5 minutes late with a Slurpee, just thinking, I played community soccer, and I thought this is fine. Right. And football is a much more rigid military style of discipline. So the head coach, this is Todd Burnett, very influential in my life. he sees this new kid sit down and plug. I had like a 64-ounce Slurpee. I put it down next to me because it's a hot day. I'm going to be hot. I need a Slurpee. So he comes over. He was a quarterback, and he just rocketed. He took my Slurpee, rocketed. There's a dumpster. He just marched over to like within 30 yards, just rocketed into the dumpster. And so that's was like my wake-up call. Football's a little different from soccer, maybe. And then the rest of that practice, I was lost. And like the first few days, they're trying to figure out what my position. They said, looked at me, you're a tight end. And they tell me to run a post route. And I say, what's a post route? And so I do what they say, and a ball hits me in the back. So I missed that part of it. And then they send me to be a D end, and they said I have contain. And what's contain? And so I watched the quarterback run by me, and they figured that wasn't for me. So they just plunked me at O-line, not because they thought I had a talent, just as a way to get me out of the way and finally do that. And I got sent to run around. There's baseball backstops, and it's a huge practice field. We practiced at a city park because we kept our game field for games. So I spent like most of the days being sent to run around the backstops. I got a lot of cardio. Whenever we had a lead that year and there was a risk that I might get put into the game, I would try to slide back on the sideline. I would stop trying to watch the game and start trying to get behind guys so that the coach wouldn't look back and notice me and put me in the game. Like, it was that bad. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. So that was grade 10. I wasn't going to quit, but I tried it. Football wasn't for me. But it was that off season, the coach, Todd Burnett, got me in the weight room after school every day. And this is, 15 turning 16. And it was like the March of the spring, got me in the weight room, and I couldn't bench like one plate when I first went. I could bench like, 110 or something like that. And and he got me up to like, 250 pounds in a matter of, months. I went from, in 5 months, I went from 220, because I wasn't a small kid. I went from 220 to 275. So I gained a pound every 3 days. And I was just lifting. Every day after school, I just loved it. He got me in a bunch of football camps, and then grade 11, I was already getting recruited. I had a great year in grade 11. I just figured it all out, and it was easier when you're bigger and stronger.
Sure.
Football becomes a lot easier. Yeah. And then I was loving it. So it was getting in the weight room. So for any like coaches who are watching or listening, getting those guys in the weight room at that age, grade 9, 10, 11, you make gains so quickly. If you're having problems with a kid being motivated, nothing motivates them more than literally noticing they're getting stronger every single day. So that was it for me with the football. Then football caught me and motivated me where I wasn't a particularly motivated kid in a lot of other ways. And I had some talents and I wasn't maybe applying them. I wasn't the best student. I didn't connect, the ability to exert myself completely towards a goal until football did it for me.
That's amazing. So incredible things happen. You have a coach that's well known in terms of putting together a tape and getting you out there, because there was obviously potential to play at the next level and maybe even the highest level in the United States for, U.S. college football. You end up at LSU.
Go Tigers.
Okay, like LSU is for people that don't know, this is a football factory. You have a head coach that was a legend then, is a super legend right now, and Lou Saban. And we had Tamika Nurse here, who played for Oregon, the Ducks, and Bowling Green University at basketball. And she talked about what the difference and what a pleasure it was for her to be playing basketball for her at the highest level at that part. What was it like for you playing at that level?
It was a trip, and looking back on it now, I know just what a cool experience it was. But even at the time, you take it for granted because but still, I was able to appreciate, this is something pretty neat here. Nick Saban, greatest of all time, greatest football head coach of all time. Now the numbers back it up, and he surpassed Bear Bryant and all these other guys. And it was incredible being in his system, seeing him do it, having him work on you. Like, it worked. His coaching approach worked. He has this incredible, it's magic, this magic hold on you. It's beyond just charisma, because he's not trying to make you like him. It's this incredible hold, this incredible power of persuasion. You want to do more than you ever possibly thought you could do, because he's telling you to do it. And it's incredible. He has a lot of thought that goes into his system. Every one of his aspects of his programs. He is very process oriented. And even when you realized that something was a coaching technique, it still worked on you. Because there's a lot of coaches, when you see through, that always just giving us this regular shtick or spiel, then it doesn't quite hit quite so well. But with Saban, everything hit, everything worked. He controlled every single variable that was within his control within the program. So every story, every Nick Saban story, because there's a lot out there, every single one of them is true. First off, if you've heard it, it's true. He controlled every single minor variable, and he always asked the question, why is that there? Why are we doing it that way? Is that the best way to do it? Incredible capacity, and also a very good delegator. You know, sometimes people who are inclined towards that way become micromanagers, and they're not as successful. Very good delegator. He had a great offensive coordinator at the time, Jimbo Fisher, who's since got on to be a great head coach in his own right. Very good delegator. But going from Vancouver to Baton Rouge, going from Vancouver College Fighting Irish and BC High School football to LSU and the SEC, that's a big jump in terms of football. Yeah, is a very steep learning curve, especially for a kid who is new to football.
And being a Canadian.
Oh, yeah. Just the climate was tough enough. Yeah. It was a huge change going from Vancouver to Baton Rouge. I drove my car down there, drove my 79 Pontiac Firebird, first car, still have it, getting the engine rebuilt right now because I think I threw a rod bearing. But I drove that down. That was my daily driver all through university. Great vehicle, the White Dragon. So down there, incredible college experience, incredible food, great workout program. Tommy Moffitt, strength and conditioning coach there for years and years. A big part of Saban's success is the culture that permeated the program. So his culture was carried on all through the offseason, because you're with the strength coach every single day. Your position coaches are only allowed to be with you during certain parts of the year. You know, in the offseason, you don't have organized team activities. So it's the strength coach has as much influence on you as your offensive line coach. And so Tommy Moffitt, incredible strength coach, and I loved the strength and conditioning. I really, again, poured myself into that. I actually won the team strength and conditioning coach my senior award my senior year. So that was a very proud accomplishment. And they have all the pictures. So we had a 20-year anniversary reunion last year. We won the national championship in 2003.
I was just gonna say that's you guys went 12-1. I think the only loss was to Florida.
Yeah, we had a regular season loss, but we made it in. Amazing. And that was back when that was super controversial. Yeah. We beat Oklahoma, the Sooners. Jason White, I think, was the quarterback back then. We beat them in the Sugar Bowl, so it was like a home game. It was in New Orleans.
Yeah, wild.
And we got to go to the White House. So I got to meet George W. Bush, Hello. And I got to go to Washington, D.C. But this is an example of Saban's management. We flew in and flew out the same day. We go to see Washington, D.C. We don't make a trip of it or anything. It's during our off-season training, so we just go in and out one day. So we landed. We go to see the Washington Monument. We went to see the Capitol building, and we go to the White House. And then we're back to the airport. Jesus. And so we, got to meet the president. That was pretty cool.
Sure.
And then they had USC in as well, because they won the AP poll that year. The AP is a bit of a split vote, a bit of a protest vote, because Oklahoma had gotten into the BCS game ahead of them. So they had Reggie Bush was there. Yes. And we were briefly teammates during my, 2.5, 3 month cup of coffee with the Saints after university. So.
That's right. Well, yeah, and you did. You got it to experience the National Football League, as you said, for a very, very short time. But at the end of the day, you were drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You make that decision to come back to Canada. Again, there's so much to talk about, but can you talk to me? And I've talked to so many different people that have represented that franchise. And you were able to, as I said off the top, you make your mark in the community, and then you make your mark on the field as well, too. And that mixed well for you. What was your Tiger Cat experience like?
I've got to give a lot of credit to Bob Young as the owner. I think his culture, that community connection, comes from his relationship with the team, what brought him to the team in the first place. And that invitation to work in the community. Every team has a community relations department. It's smart. You're building the brand. But it felt like in Hamilton, compared with some of the other teams I've seen, we do a really good job of it. And there was that open invitation to get involved, to go meet more people, to support different initiatives. And my policy was always to say yes. Whenever you get asked to do something, say, as long as you're able to, say yes. And some really neat things have happened because of it. And we visited probably every single elementary, middle school in the city, and I don't know if there's many that I hadn't been to at least once with our various fitness and nutrition programs and pro reading programs. So you go visit all these schools, they have a fun pep rally, you deliver an important message, and it gets through to some of the kids, maybe who weren't listening, because it's stuff they hear from a million other people. But it feels like you're doing some good, helping influence some young lives. And I've had people come back to me. I was about to say kids are not kids anymore. I've had full-grown adults come back to me and say, you came to my school, and it was pretty cool. And I look at them, I say, I don't remember going to a lot of high schools. No, I was in grade 2 at the time. And then it reminds me, okay, this how old I am now, how long I've been here. So I got drafted by the Cats in the 06 draft, and I played here 07 through 2016, and then 2017 in Saskatchewan. So I had a good decade of traveling around the city, getting involved, helping out, and sometimes you're more in the way than you're helping out, but sometimes you really do help out. And it was a cool way to get to know the city. Being from Vancouver, not knowing Hamilton, the only thing I really knew about Hamilton was the Ticats. Growing up in Vancouver, and even though I wasn't a football player, I'd go to a lot of Lions games. I had family at Edmonton, so I'd go to a lot of Edmonton Eskimos games. You'd be there in the summertime, but aside from CFL, I didn't know anything about Hamilton. Grover Covington was our high school D-line coach. Grover Covington, whose son at the time was this little kid who, ran around, helping out with the balls and stuff. Christian Covington, who is now big time signing with the BC Lions to come back to the CFL after like a decade in the NFL. Grover Covington, all-time Tiger Cat defensive end, who is my high school D-line coach. That was so cool. But that was when I got drafted by the Cats. The Cats were my second favorite team after the Lions, because you can't pick another Western team to be your second favorite team. That just wouldn't do. And then the Ticats were the closest feline equivalent to the Lions. And then I had the Grover Covington connection. So when the Cats drafted me, I was excited, came up here, lived right downtown on King William and Walnut, right across from the police station. So that was very exciting. I ended up being the superintendent of that building. I worked for City Housing Hamilton my second off season. Right. Early on in my career, in the CFL, you always have off-season jobs. So I worked as a private tutor first off-season, worked at City Housing Hamilton as a building superintendent my second off-season, and then I worked for Errol Youth Center, youth correctional facility for a few years. Me and Sandy Beveridge did that.
Sandy, now a fireman.
Now a fireman, yeah.
It's amazing when I talk to you guys, and I can see it in your eyes. I can see it just through experience, is that you weren't lucky enough. You went to the Grey Cup a couple of times, didn't win. But when I talk to so many of you former football players, they say the same thing, and maybe you will agree, that the wins, the losses, they come, they go. But the relationships you build in that locker room, you will have for a lifetime. Oh,
absolutely. I still do a lot with Dave Stala. We actually were partners on a couple of real estate projects. Marwan and I, we played side by side. I was stepping on his toes for 7 years. We still, we're
one of the best centers.
Fantastic! Great guy for me to play together with. We're still very, very close. You make some great longtime friends. By the way, I'm hoping that some people are going to watch this, and so I just want to mention, when it comes to the Ticats organization, fantastic staff, top to bottom. The equipment staff do so much for the team. So I'd like to give you my top 3 equipment staff members. Number 1, Drew Stroshine.
Let it rip.
Greatest equipment manager in the entire Canadian Football League. Drew is the best. Thank you, Drew. Number 2, Hot Rod, because he was Drew's immediate predecessor. And if it wasn't for Hot Rod, we wouldn't have Drew. Number 3, Raider Boyd, just because I loved his attitude. And then number 4, Dylan. I love Dylan.
Who was here a week ago.
Number 4, Dylan is my number 4 favorite.
Dedicated. Dedicated.
Great guy. Yeah. Number 4. So we got Drew, Hot Rod, Raider, Dylan.
I'll tell you, So we just talked about that, about the fact that you've gone on and done some wonderful things. There comes a day where it's done. And you had a cup of coffee with the Argonauts. You spent a year.
Whoa. Who said that? Where's that coming? People say this all the time. Argos? I would never sign a contract with the Argos.
Wasn't there a cup of coffee? Wasn't there a tryout, or wasn't there something with the Argonauts?
Hold on. People have said this over the years.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound like something I would do.
Oh, no. I mean, come on now, right? But, I mean, there was. But it ended with Saskatchewan, right?
Yes. Saskatchewan.
Let's go there, right? There comes a time where the body is not the same. You had a serious knee injury near the end of your career, if I remember.
In 2013 in the Grey Cup, just before halftime, and it was terrible because we had just crossed midfield. We had a drive going, and I tore my patellar tendon. The running back got tackled, the DN of the running back, right in the back of my knee, and I'm pushing off as hard as I can on Keith Sholigan, big guy, right?
Sholigan was a massive man.
Oh, yeah, big, strong guy. So I'm pushing as hard as I can, full-on drive block, so you're full power, getting near full extension, and then bam, right in the back of my knee. So my patellar tendon ruptured and I got carted off the field. The only time I ever had to get on the cart. It was terrible. And then I crutched back out after halftime, and I just watched. It was like a pep rally. We're in Saskatchewan. It's like a pep rally for the Rough Riders the whole game. They ran away with it. It was theirs to win. So that was brutal. I had to do a urine test. I had to pee in front of a drug testing officer after that. So in my diminished state,
oh my goodness,
on crutches with my leg now not even properly connected to the rest of my body, I have to do a drug test. So just what word am I looking for? It was a very very humbling experience.
Emotional.
Yeah, So that was not a pleasant moment. But I came back, so I played 4 more seasons after that. The next one, 2014, was mostly rehab. I only played in the playoffs. So I lost. Actually, this could be a record. I'm not sure, but I have lost 2 Grey Cups in 3 games. So I went my next 3 games. I lost a Grey Cup, I won an East Final, then I lost a Grey Cup. So that was a tough 3-game stretch. But then I played 15, 16, felt like I played pretty good years. I went out to Sask 17. So now I'm an old guy by this point, by football standard, like 34. And we had Chris Jones as a head coach at Sask.
Yes.
And at the time, I would have liked to just stay in Hamilton, play out 15 years in Hamilton, right? But that doesn't get that, right? So I went out west, and it was so much fun to go out there. And I was determined to have a great year. I thought I had maybe a couple more years, but I knew it was going to be one of the last ones.
Yes.
And so I took a few moments, to step back and like really take it in and enjoy it. Chris Jones. What an adventure playing in the Chris Jones system is. Speaking of, Nick Saban, every story you've ever heard is true. Well, every story you've ever heard about Chris Jones is true as well. It's a fantastic, chaotic system to play in. I loved it. One of the first things he said to me, he said, we know you know how to play football, so you don't have to prove it in practice. We want to get the young guy reps. They had a rookie that they wanted to develop. So we'll give him a lot of the reps in practice. You just be ready for game day. I said, sounds good to me, Coach. I had like half the reps in practice that whole season. I played better than I had probably the last couple of years. I felt so fresh, so much. I felt stronger. But that tells you, if you can't keep up the volume that the young guys are doing, you're now on that down slope. So I had a great year. It was a nice way to cap it off, and then just before the next training camp, they released all the old guys on the same day, like Chad Owens, Kevin Glenn, me, I think Rob Bagg too. A bunch of the old guys. They got them all out of the door on the same day, a couple of days before camp.
Were you expecting it?
I was not. However, when you're in football long enough, that kind of stuff is never unexpected.
Football is a business.
Yeah. So I had the year before, when I went to Sask, I had my luggage next to the door, and I was about to go up to York University for some reason to get a physical the day before the Argos training camp started. I don't know why. And I got a call on my phone from a U.S. area code, and I thought, this is Jim Pop, isn't it? And so I answered, it's Jim Pop, and he says, we're looking at trading you to the Riders. But they said that, so this is exactly, you're not expecting it, but you are. And he said, they tried to sign you when you were a free agent, but you didn't want to go there because I wanted to stay near my family and all this stuff, which is why some people allege I signed a contract with the Argos. So anyways, so they said they want to talk to you first before they do the trade. I said, okay, sure. So I talked to J.O. over there, and I said, can I sleep on it? Because I wanted to talk to my wife, and we just had a little baby at this point. So we talk about it, look at like rentals and stuff, and figure out a plan for, my wife is going to come out there, spend most of the season in Regina with me, back and forth with a few like the summer vacation things, cottage weekend plan with her family and all that stuff. So I called J.O. back the next day. I said, okay, let's do it, right? And I also thought, go where you want it, I don't know if Sask called, trying to get me, or if the Argos were shopping around and they called all the other teams. But obviously Saskatchewan wants me more than Toronto, so it's very nice of them to ask me if I want to get traded. So I said, sure, let's go. So I went out there. I had a great year. Jones was good to me. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. The fans out there were terrific, just as good as playing in Hamilton. And it's the whole province. It's not just the city, it's the whole province. So it's a huge deal. We got to open the brand new Mosaic. So I got to open the new Tim Hortons. I got to open the new Mosaic. I got a lot of new stadiums in my time.
That's kind of cool.
And it was a lot of fun. But I knew it was one of the last seasons. I didn't know it was going to be the last one. I knew it was one of the last ones. So I'd always like kind of take a step back and take it in. This is actually pretty cool. It was a fun year.
But so when you get that pink slip, we'll call it, what was the tipping point for you that you're like, yeah, it's time to do something else?
Well, so I got released before training camp, but I was ready for the season. So I wanted to hear from all the other teams and see who wants me. And I had some interest, but it wasn't, very compelling in terms of the deals. And it's a beating. So you're not going to sign up for below a certain amount. Although I'll wait to see how the season develops, see who ends up needing a guard. And, later on in the year, I had some other offers, again, not compelling, didn't necessarily want to pick up and go way out west again, didn't want to be a six-man. I'd never, been a backup aside from like my first couple of years when I think I started, 8 or 10 games both of my first 2 seasons. So I was never like a dedicated, I don't want it to play. I knew I had more games in the tank. And then I got another offer later in the season and to be on a practice roster. And I said no to that. And that had never happened before. I thought, you know what, if I'm saying no to an opportunity that a decade ago I would have jumped at because it's a chance to get into an organization, that probably means I'm done. So then I formally retired. The Cats had me in to sign a nice retirement letter. We had a nice party. It was very nice of them. And that easing into retirement, I didn't know I was retired. I had already been retired for quite some. I didn't know it yet, right? Yeah. So that made it easier. And then I jumped right into the nomination race, late 2018, for Hamilton Mountain for the Conservative nomination.
This is what blows me away. The politics stuff. Like, where did this come from?
Well, I've always been interested in politics. I have a history degree. What are you going to do with that? Not much, right? But it gives you some more time to contemplate politics, and that was always something that I thought would be a pretty cool thing to do. And 10 years with Hamilton, we're going to all of the different community events and a lot of the glad handing, a lot of the things that politicians do. I don't know what else they do, but they do a lot of that stuff, right? So we had the 2019 election coming up. I thought, well, let's give this a shot, and they thought I should too. So I actually got recruited. They came and they were looking for good candidates to try to win in some more competitive seats or some tougher seats. So I took a pretty tough seat, historically orange seat on the mountain, and that was such a consuming effort. Trying to run a really good campaign. My goal was to leave no stone unturned. We wanted to max out the fundraising, max out the spending, do everything that we could to win a seat that hadn't gone blue since like 1980. So we didn't work out. Looking back, till the tape, there's a few things that we could have done better. But overall, I had a great team, fantastic support. We did a lot. We raised a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. The party gave a lot of support too. They can shift around funding and contribute from safe ridings to potentially winnable contended ridings. Right. So we did that. I spent the most money, but I got the fewest votes of the major parties, so it didn't quite work out. Right. But good third place showing, bronze medal.
Your numbers were like, for a guy first time, there are very few, you know this, there are very few people that go in their first time and win.
It was a great experience. I learned a lot. We did an assessment. We looked at a lot of comparable ridings, and we looked at tried to figure out did I have any WAR to take into a football, or not a football, but a sports metric. So did I have any WAR? And we figured we actually did a lot better than what you'd imagine the baseline, but it just wasn't enough. But it was a great experience. Knock on wood. Maybe I'll try it again sometime. But that was a great distraction from football. So I miss it. Like, I miss football so much. It's so much fun, but I never got mopey about missing it. Because you really miss it. There's an emptiness because this is what you are. It's an identity. It's all consuming effort, and then you don't have it anymore. Football is fantastic because it gives you a sense of immediacy and urgency and importance to everything that you're doing. So everything that I'm doing feels important because it's building up to the season. Even the meals, the sleep, the workouts, the prep during the game week, and then the game itself. You've got tens of thousands of people in the stadium and 1 million on TV watching, telling you that it's really important. And then you don't have that anymore. So that race was great. It was a year of distraction almost. And then I was ready to do something else afterwards. I still miss football, but I never had that lull, that dip.
The funny thing is that there's a preconceived idea, notion, belief that O-linemen are just a bunch of big old fun guys with beards and love to pump in the burgers and drink beer.
Well, that can be true.
It can be true, but then there's a couple of exceptions. And we found out somewhere throughout your career as a media people here that covered the local team and the Tiger Cats, that this Peter Dyakowski is he's a pretty smart guy. And you have to be
sometimes,
and you have to be pretty smart to learn some of those plays and remember everything and be ready. Pipeline 2 on 4, whatever. You got to process a lot. But I'll use this word, had an intelligence about different things outside of football that became obvious. And you put yourself to the ultimate test in this, I think it was called the Smartest Canadian contest that was run by CBC.
Canada's smartest person.
And you win. You win, dude. What was that like?
Oh, it was great fun. The best part about it was there's no pressure on me. It's the football player. And all of my opponents were very distinguished academically. Lots of letters after their names, multiple degrees. There was a quantum chemist. There was a nuclear physicist. And then there was an offensive guard. So, I went in with the lowest of it. I thought if I can win one challenge, one module of it, then I can hold my head up high and be very proud that I held my own with these distinguished competitors. And the way they filmed it, it was a long day. It was like 17 hours. It was a long day because this after this, it was greenlit for full seasons. So they had like 6 or 7 seasons after this where they had many episodes leading to a finale. This was just a 2-hour finale. All the preliminary rounds were done online. They had different testing rounds to qualify in. So they had thousands of applicants, and they pare it down to this final group for this spectacle. And the first thing that we filmed, it wasn't the first thing that was in the blog, but the first bit that we filmed was like boggle. It was like, make as many words. Here's a bunch of letters. Here's a jumble of letters. Make all the words. And I always kill it at Scrabble and boggle and all these words. I thought, here's my chance. So if I can make a lot of words, which I can, I might be able to win this one. So I won that one. And then all the pressure melts away because I've accomplished everything that I came to do. And so now I'm just going to have fun. And I'm naturally a competitive guy. Everyone else is on notice that we might lose to this big dumb animal over here that someone brought in. And so I think they tightened up and I loosened up. And again, you talk about making the quick decisions. Well, it's a television program. So they try to make it all very action-oriented and immediate. So all of that, I think, played into my favor as well as a football player. So I had a great night. I had a fantastic, it wasn't just a night, it was a day. It started at like 7 a.m. and it ran until like almost 2 in the morning when it was finally done.
Wow.
It was a long day. They kept the studio audience locked in the studio. My wife and my little brother were there.
Were they feeding them?
I think they brought them some snacks, but there was like an audience revolt at one point. Jerry D was the host. Jerry D was the host. Right. Yeah, Mr. D. He was the host. Well, that was a lot of fun. That was great fun. It was quite a challenge. I just stayed focused. I kept snacking. Between every single challenge, I treated it like halftime, and at halftime, I'll always have a little snack. Like, I didn't eat quite as much. Like some halftimes, I would have like a couple coffees, and I would always keep like a McDouble in my locker.
The McDouble.
Oh yeah,
the junior, the double junior.
Yeah. So I'd have that in my locker. But I was always kept snacking, so I kept my my blood sugar at an optimal level. So that was a lot of fun. So I won that. So I still have that trophy. That's a very fortunately named thing to win.
Yep.
And I could always, point to it in a domestic disagreement, but my wife will, I think, take issue with the title. And then I also have a lot of former teammates who do remind me. It's over a decade ago now, and since that was 2012, I've had a lot of hits to the head still. I still played another 5 seasons after that. So yeah, it was great. And then I went on Jeopardy after that.
And that's another thing. And now you've gone from Canada's Smartest Man, which is one level, and you've gone to the maximum now. Like, this is the premier show of intelligence or game show. I mean, I on a daily basis still tape the show, watch it.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know, if I get 5 right, I feel good.
Well, they say the toughest thing is just getting on it. No, right. I'm kidding. So I did the whole thing to get on it, and I thought, I love Jeopardy. I love watching it, and it's always so easy when you're watching it. Whenever someone's not getting something, I'm like, oh, come on, you can't get that one. So I do the online test. So I don't know how it works now, but back then there was like 2 days of the year, like January, you could do the online test, and the test is online. I think there's a time limit, and I did that. And I didn't hear anything for a while. And then I got a notification months later. I was invited to an in-person audition. And I think that one of these ones went into my junk mail. And it's like automatically deleted after 30 days. And it's like day 25, I saw it.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I got invited to this live audition in Toronto. They had rented out one of these hotel ballrooms. You have to do a written test to make sure that you hadn't cheated on the online test. Like, I could have had, my wife in the room feeding me answers. She's quite good at trivia too. We've done bar night trivias and just cleaned up, right? So to make sure you weren't cheating, you have to do a written test. And then they have all the people there that they've already pre-screened. They bring you up to do a mock game. So they have a projector and they have the actual clicker from the show, and you play through several columns of a mock game in front of a field of their producers. And so they see if you can play the game or not, because they don't want people who can't play the game. So I had, the first category was a difficult one for me, and then I was able to steal it and then go to a couple of categories that were good. I rolled through a couple of categories. I felt really good. And then I never heard anything again for a while. And then I got a call from them or an email, and this might have been the one that went to my spam, I forget which, but anyways, this is at the end of the football season now. So this was after practice. I had to go to Toronto. I had to get off the field. I had to shower in like 5 minutes and get back in my car and get up to Toronto. I got in just before they shut the door. I got there just before they had to shut the door for like not letting you in anymore before they started the test. So I barely made it in. Ken Austin was our coach. I think I asked him if I could take practice off that day. He said no. So I still made it work.
Thanks, Kent.
Yeah. So I was supposed to go on in December, and this is the year I tore my patellar tendon in the Grey Cup at the end of November. So I had to cancel. So I canceled. I missed my Jeopardy, and then they called me back in maybe February to say, hey, can you come down here next week? We had someone get sick.
To LA.
To LA, yeah. So I said, sure. I'm still in like a knee. I'm not allowed to bend my knee yet. They kept me immobilized from my surgery for like 8 weeks because I was usually with a patellar tendon, they let you start moving sooner, but because of my weight, because of my plan to keep playing football, they wanted it to get really strong.
Okay.
So I was still locked out in this huge post-surgery brace. I had a DVT and then a pulmonary embolism right after my surgery. And so I collapsed lung. I got rushed back to the hospital. So I'm having not a great time in terms of my health.
Yeah.
And we'd also just got married. So we got married January 18th. So I was just I was just off of my crutches. I got off my crutches like 2 days before our wedding, and we had to cancel our honeymoon. We were supposed to go skiing in the Alps. So can't really go skiing when you're still in like a no movement leg brace. No. So fortunately, I'd canceled that with my credit card. I had the credit card insurance, so I was able to cancel that. We did Paris in May, and we did a walking tour.
Nice.
So that was still quite nice. So Jeopardy, February, hop a flight down to LA. You have to pay your own way, by the way. They don't put you up. They have a discount rate at a hotel near the studios.
Okay.
And so it's the Sony Picture Studios in Hollywood or Culver City, California. So went down. They bring in a whole week's worth of contestants, and they filmed. This is the late Alex Trebek, rest in peace. When great Canadian a hero of any fan of trivia. So very cool to meet him.
The man.
But the way it was set up, and I'm assuming they still do it this way, they would film 5 episodes on a Monday, 5 episodes on a Tuesday, and then he's off for 12 days. 2 days on, 12 days off. So they'd film 2 weeks worth of episodes.
Okay.
And so they would bring down enough people to film all these episodes.
Hold on. So he's got to go change and go put on a new suit and then come back.
Yeah. They switch up his ties and everything.
Okay.
There is this one guy who won like 5 episodes in a row.
Okay.
And I forget his name. Very distinctive looking, like kind of like a somewhat overweight Asian guy. Mm-hmm. And it's hot in the studio and he's wearing a nice suit on the first episode. Mm-hmm. So on the Monday he was wearing, and they tell you to bring extra clothes. Yeah. And some people don't because they don't want to jinx themselves. Some people forget. I, of course, brought a couple pairs of clothes. Oh, I'm going to win for sure, right? So I have several pairs of clothes with me. This guy, he's in a nice suit and tie on the first one. And then Tuesday, same outfit, but the tie is a little bit looser. The top button's undone. Wednesday, he's all sweaty. The tie is like down to here. And he's got 2 buttons undone. Thursday, he's just a wreck and the tie's gone. And I think Friday, he's lost the jacket too.
That's spectacular. Why didn't he just listen and bring a couple of clothes? Wear a T-shirt.
Well, he won a lot of money.
I guess so. Now he can afford to buy some clothes. Let me throw this to you. On the pre-screen, do you remember a question?
Ooh, do I remember any questions from the pre-screen? I remember a few that I got wrong on the show. It's funny, I don't remember a lot that I got right. I remember a lot that I got wrong.
Yeah, give me a sample.
There was one category that I came back on. Mm-hmm. So when I first got on the show, I got tight. I dug a hole for myself. I was in the red. And then the first category of Double Jeopardy, and I got to pick first, was the way Canadians spell it.
Wow.
So
yes.
And I'm told that there is no like the categories, it's all set in advance. So it's not like they're trying to throw you a bone like, oh, this guy's in trouble, let's help him out. Yeah. But basically just all I had to do was spell words properly.
Right.
So it was great. So anything that Americans tend to spell wrong, right. I just had to correct the spelling. So I ran that, I got to run a couple columns, and I got to a daily double. Okay. And it was historic leaders. And I'm an historian, according to my university degree. So I bet big. I had like, maybe $4,500 or something. So I bet most of that. Mm-hmm. And it was, for all the people who are listening, this is the leader of Cuba before the communist revolution. And it's Batista. And I knew it, and I knew I knew it, and I knew that I knew that I knew it, and I couldn't make the words come out of my mouth. And that's how it gets. So now when I'm watching Jeopardy on TV and I'm saying, come on, I have a lot of sympathy. I still say that, but I have a lot of sympathy. Yeah. So I lost almost all my money. And I was third place in the end. So I got $1,000, which pays for the trip basically. Yeah. And a bit of extra money. But I got federal taxes, U.S. federal tax on it. Like $200.
Come on.
Yeah. And you don't get the money till after it airs. So I did the filming in like February. It didn't air until June. We were in training camp. I didn't get the money till like August or something like that. So I didn't get the money till August. It was like $800 US. So that's not bad, US. So I took a cab. I lost. I stuck around. I watched the next episode, and that was kind of sour. And they had an intermission, so I took a cab direct from the studio to In-N-Out Burger, and I had like 5 or 6 burgers.
Yeah, it's gonna feel better about myself.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been a heck of an experience. So, and you're right. For people, because I can totally sympathize with that situation that you're in, and we've all been there where we actually know something and I just can't remember it. But it's not as easy as you think. Oh, yeah. People say, like, how could they get that wrong? Or even like, how did he miss that block? You go there. It's not as easy as you think.
Trebek was so nice. He made me feel better about it. We had a nice chat after. When they're rolling the credits, you're chatting. So I had to talk to Trebek. And earlier on, when they're doing the telling me about yourself portion after the first commercial break, he was saying how he grew up, in Canada. And,
Ottawa.
And Sudbury, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And he grew up, and the Ticats were his favorite team. And he started listing the players from when he was a kid, and I started doing the math. Like, he's a lot older than I thought. Right. Because he's mentioning all the guys from like the 50s, and he hasn't visibly aged in a long time. So I thought he was a lot younger. Then he started listing these players. I'm like, wait a second, that means that Trebek is like 70. So that was cool. And we talked some football. He played high school football. Right. He figures he tore his ACL because he went recently for a knee replacement. This is recent. I mean, like 2013 or something. He went for a knee replacement, and there's no ACL. He never had one since he tore it in high school. He tore it, and it never got fixed, so it just goes away, I guess.
Jeez.
So that was neat. So yeah, the old football injury story to share. So we got to compare notes on our football injuries.
Great memories.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I've also made your mark here at this station, actually. We've had you in doing weather and like all so crazy things. But I love the fact that our morning show, and Tim Bolin, you've developed quite a wonderful relationship with him. And we have you doing this Pete picks thing on the Super Bowl. So you're still getting to talk some football with us, which we always appreciate. That's got to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it sure is. And I always look forward to it. It's a great honor to have the privilege of providing my Pete's pick for the Super Bowl. I hope I haven't lost anyone here any money. I don't think I've ever been wrong. At least I don't remember if I have. Maybe they could add up my long time record. Yeah, they do a great job with the graphics there.
Bengals wrong. Brady right though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there you go.
There we go.
Our great graphics operators here at CHCH.
Oh yeah, so I have a lot of fun with all of that, and I'm always, like I said, I'm an easy yes. So I apply all of my careful research that I conduct over the course of the year and try to distill it for the listeners. And now I'm doing a bit more commentating. I'm doing the McMaster Marauders broadcast on AM 900
You took
CHML.
my place. You do know you took my place.
Hey, I've got a high standard that I got to try to follow.
No, you took it with the great old Steve Clark.
Yeah.
Right? And what a great guy. Like, what a wonderful, prepared, spectacular play-by-play broadcaster he is. And he's great at hockey and just as good. I sometimes think better in football. But
he does all the hard work. It's so easy to be color commentary. He's doing the play-by-play. And I asked, before I started doing it, I asked some friends. I asked the great Luke Tasker, who's doing the broadcasting.
Yeah, I get to work with Luke.
He gave me some good advice. Don't feel like you always have to say something. And that also just tell people what you're watching.
Yeah.
Because that's, it's radio. They can't see it. So I have to relay that and try to be relatable and provide my insight from my unique background as an offensive lineman that's going to paint a picture of the game that's a little bit different than what some people are watching anyways when they are watching it. And what I realized early on is because it's radio, if I make a mistake, no one knows. If I call out the wrong number, the wrong player, I don't have to correct myself. So I caught myself correcting myself because it's quick. You got to go pick.
It's quick.
So I just stopped correcting myself, and I think it works a lot better.
Well, the best part about that, whether it's radio or television, is that you get to also talk about your knowledge because you have the experience of playing in the Canadian League and all the other leagues that you played in. But you also get to inflict your personality, and that's also what is a fun part about the broadcast. And you do an outstanding job. And it's been tough times for Mac over the years. They haven't made the playoffs in 3 years, which hasn't happened in like 30 years. But let's hope that they turn it around.
Well, I just want to say though. Watching the games, being that involved, I really enjoyed that too. And I also have to say, talking about Mac and their fortunes, Keegan Hall, he is the real deal. They're having him throw like 60 attempts a game, some games last year. But he's in youth sports, you got to have football, you got to have a quarterback.
Absolutely.
And that's still the level where you can have a big disparity between quarterbacks. So watch Mac this year. They've got a great culture, and I judge culture by the special teams. If special teams seem to be functioning, that says you've got good team culture. If your culture is a mess, your special teams will be a mess. You're going to have gaps depending on your personnel, O&D, but if your team can work together and function on special teams, that tells me you've got decent team culture. And under, Steph Potasic, they've always had a pretty consistent team culture. Even the ups and the down years, they've had a consistent, strong culture, which means that if you get the right mix of personnel, you can very quickly go from not making the playoffs to being a serious contender. So Keegan Hall, I got some very high expectations for him and for the whole Marauders team. And I got one more thing I want to plug while I'm on here today. So there is a big-time fan of the Ticats, Andrew Nielsen, who's very active on Twitter.
Yes.
And he's
going to rappel a building soon.
He rappels a building. He does it every year as a fundraiser for the Easter Seals. So he raises a lot of money, and it's to help send physically disadvantaged kids to camp. So special camp so that kids who aren't fully mobile or whatever are able to enjoy a camp experience, the great outdoors. Just like the Tim Hortons camps and camp they do for underprivileged kids, this is for kids who need a camp that's got the resources for someone who's got limited mobility to go and enjoy that. So Andrew raises money every year. He rappels down building, which seems very dangerous, but it's also probably exciting. I'm sure you get a bit of a breeze. So anyways, he's doing a fundraiser. He's on Twitter. I've shared it. We've got an anonymous donor who's an Argos fan, by the way. Don't hold it against him, but his heart's in the right place, and he's a big fan of the Easter Seals. He is matching the next $5,000 in donations to Andrew's campaign. So look at my Twitter. I just retweeted it recently. $5,000. So if you donate $100, our anonymous donor will donate $100. So whatever you donate is going to get doubled by this fine gentleman, and that's going to help Andrew basically raise his next $10,000. That'll really, make his campaign a success.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did see that on social media, familiar with him and seeing him at Tiger Cats games, and he's got wonderful friends and people that have reached out and helped him along the way, and to see that he's giving back, and he's been dealt a little bit of a tough card. Let's be honest, right? And the fact that he does not let that bother him from fundraising and contributing to our community. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I didn't forget it. He's got a great attitude and a big fan of the Cats, and he's been with the team through the ups and the downs and the disappointments. And I've got, again, high hopes for the Cats. Last week in Calgary aside, high hopes for the Cats this year. Bo looked healthy.
Yes, he did.
And that's that's what really counts. And we're going to have him at home here on Father's Day.
Sunday against the Rough Riders, a little home action against the boys in green. Hey, you talk about attitude. Your attitude has been spectacular. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be a wonderful podcast, and you superseded it with all your experience and the things that you've had to share and spread. This is way better than I ever could have thought it was. Thank you for coming in, bud.
Well, thanks for having me on, Bubba. I'm happy to, if you ever want me back, or maybe I can get you for a halftime interview during my Mac broadcast, because I do like to bring in a celebrity interview for the halftime show. We're trying to do a lot with that format.
No celebrity, just an old guy that likes football, that's all.
And I didn't see everyone in because I came in here late today, so I missed the morning crew. Send my love to the whole morning crew. Tell Tim I'm looking forward to the next Super Bowl.
We'll do that. We'll get you in. Always a pleasure, bud. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, your Sportsline podcast is done for the day. And as you've just seen and heard, we love talking sports with people who got that passion and zest for life. If you do want to join in the fun or promote an athlete, team, or event, we do want to hear from you. Hit the thumbs up, 5-star subscribe button so you can catch all the entertaining content on CHCH we do have to offer. For the brilliant people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, I say thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.